Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it.
Unidentified flying objects.
Artificial intelligence will weed out objects like birds and drones and planes.
Why is the government, after promising not to do this repeatedly, still hiding information?
Have you noticed that the mainstream media seems to be talking a lot about UFOs lately? What was previously seen as conspiracy theory territory is now just regular news. UFO experts are being interviewed on the biggest networks, and footage of these strange objects is being broadcast alongside sports highlights and the weather report. So what is going on? Why the sudden shift? Why are these major news organizations now taking UFOs so seriously? Maybe the evidence has simply become too convincing to ignore. Perhaps there are legitimate journalists out there who are just genuinely interested in UFOs. Or maybe there's something else happening here. Maybe this is all part of an orchestrated program known as Project Bluebeam. If you've never heard of this conspiracy theory, hold on to your hats. It's about to get wild. Project Bluebeam is one of the lesser-known conspiracy theories. In fact, you'll find very little information about it on the web. There are even fewer videos about this subject on YouTube. The main premise is simple. Humanity needs some kind of external threat to finally unite under a single banner. This isn't even a controversial idea, and it's something major politicians, scientists, and philosophers have been saying for decades. Check out this quote from Ronald Reagan back in 1987.
We often forget how much unites all the members of humanity. Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound.
In 2014, Bill Clinton said something very similar.
Well, now we have friendly
Maybe the only way to unite this incredibly divided world of ours. They're out there. We better think of how all the differences among people on Earth would seem small if we felt threatened by a space invader. That's the whole theory of independence.
You're right.
But what would happen if we faced an actual alien invasion? Well, it probably wouldn't go so well for us. In 2018, theoretical physicist Michio Kaku warned us that if aliens ever arrived in Earth's orbit, we wouldn't stand a chance. The logic is pretty straightforward. If aliens have the technology to travel vast distances through space and show up on your doorstep, they probably have weapons that would make even our most sophisticated fighter jets look like paper airplanes. With all of that said, Kaku also echoed the same sentiments voiced by Reagan and Clinton. So if aliens ever invade, we'd probably lose in a matter of days. But what about a fake alien invasion? Think about it. Humanity would be unified against a single threat, but without any actual danger of being destroyed. If you're a major world leader, this might sound like a pretty great deal. It's no secret that in a situation of extreme emergency, the government can basically walk all over your rights. Think about how much has changed in the last few years due to a relatively minor pandemic. If we faced an alien threat, you can bet that these emergency measures would go much, much further. Just consider what happened to the population during World War II. Newspapers were censored. Religious, social, ethnic, and political organizations were completely banned. Millions of people were arrested and put in internment camps for no real reason, and police had the authority to detain people without ever charging them with a crime. And we're not just talking about the Nazis either. People around the globe were put in camps for sympathizing with the enemy. Even Canada rounded up tens of thousands of Japanese Canadians and imprisoned them for the duration of the war. Human rights violations were occurring across the planet. Suddenly, governments had the power to control what you said, where you were allowed to go, and where you worked. They also forced people to fight against their will in wars they didn't even agree with. If we ever face an alien threat, you can expect the same kind of scenario, but on steroids. Perhaps most crucially, it wouldn't be individual nations taking away people's rights. It would be a one-world government tasked with unifying humanity and fighting the aliens. But wait a second, where's the evidence? How do we know that major world governments are even considering staging a fake alien invasion? First, it's important to understand that most UFO sightings are probably just advanced, classified military experiments. These so-called black projects are usually tested at sites like Area 51, and the government obviously doesn't want anyone to know about the technology they're playing around with. In fact, you might even argue that the military likes the alien rumors. Some have even suggested that they actively feed these conspiracy theories, encouraging people to believe that UFOs are flying around the United States. After all, this is a great way to keep top-secret projects as confidential as possible. It's not us, it's the aliens. Misdirection is the oldest trick in the CIA's playbook. In 1997, the CIA admitted that they lied about UFO sightings in the 50s and 60s. People were spotting U-2 and SR-71 spy planes flying around in Nevada and California. And some of these observers believed that they were seeing alien spaceships. The CIA never actually denied these rumors. Instead, they released all kinds of insane cover stories, blaming the sightings on ice crystals and temperature inversions. Although they never admitted it outright, we can assume that they also encouraged the UFO theories. The United States has been building all kinds of insane projects over the years, some of which look exactly like the classic flying saucer. Take Project 1794, for example, a disc-shaped craft that was intended to shoot down Soviet bombers. So the government might have been creating flying saucers and encouraging rumors of aliens. Okay, but do real aliens actually exist? Not according to Edward Snowden. This world-renowned hacker said that he had access to the CIA's top-secret files, and he found absolutely no mention of aliens anywhere. His exact words were, quote, "The idea that we're hiding them, if we are hiding them, I had ridiculous access to the networks of the NSA, the CIA, the military, all of these groups. I couldn't find anything." In 2020, it was reported that the Pentagon couldn't explain where $35 trillion had gone. Some dismissed this as some kind of accounting error, but others claim that it's evidence of ongoing black projects that even the highest-ranking military officials know nothing about. Just to put this into perspective, the United States planned to build numerous F-35 fighter jets, aircraft carriers, destroyers, and submarines for $738 billion in their last defense budget. $35 trillion is 50 times that amount. Imagine what the government could build with that much stolen money. Is it enough cash to build a fleet of highly advanced alien-like aircraft? Maybe. Finally, we have to consider the fact that many of the world's superpowers have staged false flag operations in the past. And some might even say that this is a core part of their military doctrine. So what if the US government really does have a fleet of fake UFOs ready to go? What would a staged alien invasion actually look like? First of all, the media would probably spread fear and panic among the general populace. This process has arguably already begun. Next, the Black Project UFOs would probably appear in large numbers, possibly attacking certain areas or simply flying over. What happens next is completely open to speculation. Some theorists claim that the overall goal is to depopulate the planet. either by taking people off-world or simply slaughtering them in droves. And democide is the world's leading cause of death. Others say that the deep state is primarily concerned with establishing a one-world government and simply exerting more control over the global population. Essentially, this fake alien invasion would give a new world order government justification to do pretty much anything it wanted. Some of the earliest proponents of this theory claimed that the fake alien invasion would be created with holograms. But the more likely scenario involves real, secret military vehicles and aircraft that have been in development for decades. These objects would look so foreign that most of us would see them as extraterrestrial. A lot of you probably think that this conspiracy theory is completely insane, and we don't blame you. It doesn't help that the guy who came up with the term Project Bluebeam was pretty unreliable. Serge Monast first mentioned the theory in his book Project Bluebeam, which was published in 1994. Monast claimed that NASA is planning a staged second coming of Christ, with holograms, that will immediately precede a fake alien invasion. Modern believers of Project Bluebeam often leave out the religious aspect of this theory, and focus entirely on the possibility of a fake extraterrestrial threat. But if we put Serge Monast aside for a moment, it's clear that this entire idea really isn't that far-fetched. And if you think about it, it's way more believable than a real alien invasion. In fact, this conspiracy theory doesn't involve any actual aliens whatsoever, just humans deceiving each other, as they have done for hundreds of years. Whether you believe in aliens or not, you have to admit that we're probably more likely to face a fake alien invasion rather than a real one. At the end of the day, Project Bluebeam is all about skepticism, which is the foundation of scientific reason. If you see a UFO or hear about strange sightings on the news, perhaps you should think twice before believing that aliens are a legitimate threat. Be skeptical. Maybe the real threat is a lot more human than you realize.